Friday night racing
on Off the Ball.
And they're off.
Brought to you by Go Racing. Plan your day at the races at goracing.ie.
A very good afternoon to you. Welcome along to Friday Night Racing. We're streaming live on all of Off the Ball's social channels right now. And if you're listening to us on the radio this evening, then a very good evening to you wherever you are in the country this weekend. Now, I'm delighted to say JJ Slevin is our guest this week. How are you, JJ?
Good, thanks. Good, thanks.
It's an important time of the year for you. It's Easter time. You'll be hopefully well enough to defend your crown as the winning jockey of the Grand National last year.
Yeah, sure. Hopefully now we're out of action at the minute, so we got to fall in the English National, and we're hoping to be back for next weekend anyway, so we're just taking a handy for a few days and hopefully we get the all clear off the doctors next week.
We should talk a bit about that. Johnny, how are you?
How are you, Ger?
Congratulations, you had a winner last week.
It's hardly...
Was it rare, it was beautiful?
Yeah.
Come on.
Not quite at the price David Jennings had the week before, but we'll try to keep it up for the injured jockeys. Obviously, he'll know that it is a very worthwhile fund, and it's great to see that some of the race courses are giving money to the injured jockeys now, which is a new initiative, probably overdue really, and putting quite a sizable bit of money into the jockeys fund, because I think it's a fund that definitely merits a lot of backing, because these guys get hurt very often and hurt quite badly.
Yeah, apparently Tiger Roll is on the Late Late Show tonight, which is, you know, exactly where Tiger Roll should be, right?
He's actually on the show.
Apparently so, yeah.
That's brilliant. I was talking to the Ballinrobe race manager this morning. He said, you know where Tiger Roll won his first chase? I said, actually I don't. He said it was Ballinrobe, and we're naming that race after him from this year onwards, so he's become a bit of a legend, in fairness. And
good for business everywhere.
Yeah, evokes memories of Oliver Brady, the late Oliver Brady. He used to bring his horse into Cheltenham preview nights, just bring him into the actual room. So Tiger Roll being on the Late Late is going to be interesting. I hope he behaves himself, you know, with all the cameras there and all the lights, because it could be a bit overwhelming, JJ.
Yeah, I'm sure it could, but he's been around the block and back again, and he's a good people around him, so I'm sure he should be fine, you know.
Yeah. What was that? It was the National you had your fall in, right?
Yeah, at the big ditch, the third fence, the second time round. So
what happened?
He was lovely early, jumping quite well, and he was in a nice rhythm, and I gave him a few squeezes along the way. I asked him for a few longer jumps that he didn't. He put down on me a few times, and he was meeting that fence maybe a straight long, and I said, go ahead now and have a cut, and he put down on me and he got heavy falls. So
what does put down mean?
He just changed his mind and didn't take the long stride that was coming there. He just chipped in an extra stride and got in too deep and just somersaulted at the ditch. It's a very big ditch to third fence, so that's what happens. And thankfully he's okay, and I'm not too bad, so that's the main thing.
And go on, sorry.
Yeah, sorry, Ger, why do some horses do that? Is it a mental thing, or...?
Yeah, but sometimes it can be a mixture of rider error, and it can be some horses just, you know, a lot of thing about jumping was not interfering with the horse and letting the horse find his own rhythm, and by asking to do that when he's unsure or not on the proper stride, it puts him off, and so it's just a mixture of two things really, you know.
Is this general principle?
Yeah.
Who you won the Irish National on last year. So, like, heading into that race, are you thinking, I got a chance here, we just have to get around and see how we're going?
Yeah, I did think he'd have a decent chance. You know, Irish National winners have a very good record coming back to entry, and probably the big thing about his Irish National win last year is he was very good at popping, which I thought, which was getting in nice and tight to his fences, which I thought would be a help around the entry, and you know, so just along the way we got our wires crossed, and unfortunately we ended up on the floor. Yeah.
There was some, I remember, like that day the ground was absolutely atrocious. I remember proper heavy ground. It's probably nearly the last time that we've had heavy ground in Ireland. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it was very wet. I think the racing was called off the next day. The next day. So it was very, very soft ground, and as I say, he got in a great rhythm that day and popped and saved himself the whole way, and that's probably what got him home. That's why he lasted as long as he did and stayed going that day. So that's, you know, was a...
How much do you remember about the race itself?
Oh, I remember it all, like the whole lot really. You know, most races you ride in, you would be able to remember a lot of things about it, and we got away to a good start that day. Went the right, you know, there's a good nice even gap down to the first. I was good and positive, you know. How much?
Okay, so obviously a big race like that, there's a huge field. You're not looking at every horse as a potential one to keep an eye on, but who were you thinking, I need to be with these guys as they're going?
Yeah, well, the way I always approach those kind of races is you know, the trainers and owners and all, they tell you a plan what they'd like you to do, and you go out with the aim of doing that. And the main thing is, you know, to get away at the start is so important. You know, like that's a 3 mile 5 race, very soft ground, but the start is so important for those races, and you need to get away where you want to be. And that was when my main mindset. And you go down, then you jump to first, make sure he's a little bit of room at the first and sees what he's at. And then you just slot into a position where you're happy to be, and you ride your race from there. And look, you just kind of follow maybe Ruby or some of those guys if you come across them. But if you don't, you ride your own race, and it's all about, you know, your horse and yourself, and you're just fence to fence and making sure he's breathing and he's got enough room and all that the whole way, you know.
And in terms of the build up to that, how fancied was General Principal heading into that?
I think he was. I think Gordon ran a good few in it, and I think Gigginstown ran a good few in it. So
they didn't think he stayed though. That was the thing.
No, I remember that. Yeah, and
that was 3.5 miles. Like you see the picture there. Like the picture that we had on the screen there. That's like after 3.5 miles in heavy ground, and there was about 2 necks between 4 of them. Isle of Hope and Dreams is the near side. Bell's Hill is in the middle. On the far side, I know Folsom Blue was there. I can't remember. Forever Gold.
Adam Short.
But like they did not think he stayed. Like I remember backing him in. What race did I back? I backed him when he was 5th one day, and I remember he didn't really get home, and he got into a beautiful jumping rhythm. And I remember even Eddie O'Leary said after the race, we generally didn't think this horse stayed. We didn't give him any chance to stay in, and he won. And I was just mad in that regard.
So are you confident at any point in that race on a horse that doesn't stay, in a race where the ground is bottomless and there's loads of other horses who are like keeping pace? You're like, no chance here, just keep going. No chance, a bit of a chance. Yeah. Oh, Jesus, what? How does that work?
Yeah, well, I remember that day that the main thing, the ground was that soft and it was that much of a hard race that I was just conserving energy the whole way, no matter whether he stayed 10 mile or whether he stayed 2 mile. In that type of race, you just needed to conserve energy, stay going as well for as long as you can, keep popping and keep hanging in there. And I remember turning for home, and I think we moved into 4th, and I said, you know, it's just, if you're going to run a big race here, we might be 4th, you know. And there was 25 grand for 4th in the Irish National, so I was thinking that, so if we can hang in there now, brilliant.
You were thinking of money jumping to 3rd last?
Yeah, you know, it's a lot of money for an Irish National, so you know, we was hanging in there, and you know, then he was jumping brilliant, and he just kept staying, and sure, there was drama at the last. Sure, Bell's Hill landed on top of it and went left and wiped out Arkrist and wiped out Folsom Blue. Folsom Blue was rattling, they were both rattling home, and my lad got a dream run through and just held off Danny. So
because Bell's Hill had been making the running, and he looked to me like he was, I think he have top weight, but he did a lot of weight anyway, and for whatever reason he came at the last and he just decided, he just practically ran out, and everything changed then.
Yeah, it was just an unbelievable Irish National, so it was just a bit of luck involved, and I suppose you need a bit of luck in all those types of races.
How does this compare to winning at Cheltenham? Because it happened like a couple of months apart, right? Or is it a year after?
A year,
sorry, okay. So you've had a year to consider the difference. Winning the National at home versus winning at Cheltenham. I mean, obviously Cheltenham, everybody like dreams about it from the time you first get into racing, so how do they compare and contrast?
Yeah, Cheltenham was an unbelievable day, and you know, again, I was kind of lucky to get the ride. Andrew Ring had kind of rang me and said that Gordon had no one to ride in the race, so I gave Gordon a ring, and I was lucky enough to get on the horse, and he was a grade 1 horse in a handicap, done a very, very easy travel around there on the bridle and took off up the hill, and the crowds in Cheltenham was unbelievable, and you know, that's what you dream of riding winners in Cheltenham.
Do you remember being aware of that as you're coming up? And because so the way you've described it, it was not a routine victory, but you knew you were going to win a bit out.
Yeah, I definitely knew when he landed back to the last he was going to win anyway. And he took off up the hill, and I suppose I really appreciated pulling up was like you had all the other jockeys that came around you and they shook hands with you, and lads that you've known a long time, and I got a real kick out of that, and walking back in, like there's that massive crowd back in that chute, and you know, you really appreciate, you really get a buzz out of those types of days. So, and it was a great day, really, you know.
Yeah, and the National then, obviously, what do you remember about the aftermath? Because there's a bit of shock involved. You're not landing at the last going, I have it now.
Yeah, so on the bob that day, I did think I'd won, but I never allowed it to sink in. I never allowed it to sink in until I got the result, you know, until I heard the number called. And then we walked back past the stand. It was spilling rain, but she didn't care at that stage. And yeah, it was a great atmosphere, and got a great buzz out of it, and just going back in along there to the lads here, it's unbelievable. Really, it's hard to.
A head,
describe.
half a length, 3 parts of a length, and a head, and
insane, isn't it?
yeah, and Belltale ended up getting disqualified and finishing 5th. So if you had backed him each way, you think you're going to win the whole way, and you end up not even getting paid on your place because he tried to carry the field out at the last. Like, it was a great renewal of the race.
Yeah, sure, it was very competitive anyway, and you have that many of them jumping the last in the Irish National. You don't see it very often, you know.
It's a 500 grand race now. Yeah, 500 grand. So, the one thing about this which is quite difficult for the likes of me to kind of get my head around is that that's 5 grand to have a runner in the race. So my only kind of qualm with the fact that the prize money has gone up so much is it's very hard for an owner of sort of your average owner to run a horse unless he's very confident that he's getting prize. Now there's prize money back to 10th, so you get prize money back, but 5 grand is a lot of money, like, before you pay other fees as well. So it is a race that's gone up an awful lot in class, but it's probably harder for the smaller owner to win it.
Let's go back, JJ, to Cheltenham this year, because you did a big win for Joseph O'Brien, who it turns out is your cousin, so that's obviously another fairly special. It's great to win for anybody. It's great to win for family as well, I presume.
Yeah, well, sure, it was a great day. Yeah, sure. Myself and Joseph go back a long way, and we were always tricking around together as young lads, and sure, to ride a winner for him was massive, and Band of Outlaws was a good horse in the flat. He turned into a good hurler, and he was very good that day, you know.
Yeah, my memory of that victory, and I was watching on the phone in the car, so not ideal watching circumstances, is that he was great. Like, it was kind of, it was one of those through the
JJ
fields.
nearly getting into massive trouble coming to the last.
Yeah, that's.
Did you miss that? You might have missed that.
Oh, yeah, it went out. So it went out, and it was like, but like, he made a move. What happened?
It kind of looked like the game was over, and then, oh no.
Yeah, so he's the type of horse that, you know, he really enjoys covering, he really enjoys following horses, and
that's code for he's a bit of a pig, right?
He's not, you couldn't really describe him a pig now, to be honest with you.
He doesn't like...
he just doesn't do a whole lot in front.
Okay,
he doesn't do a whole lot in front, so there's a few days on the flat where when he did really get loads of daylight, he did hesitate a bit about, you know, had a look around and was wondering what the game was about, but that day, you know,
not great for a horse, in fairness.
No. So hurdles have changed his mindset, and I've never really felt that he weren't going to go by over hurdles, but that day he just travelled so well, and just got squares up going to the last. I was kind of just keeping him following the 2 boys in front of me, and kind of let him half run into a gap, and they killed me, which they're perfectly entitled to do. And when I switched him out, I thought we were in trouble for a minute, but he just took off again and went up the hill and won very, very well.
Were you disappointed in entry?
Sure, obviously I was, yeah. You know, nothing went his way in entry. From the minute the flag was dropped, you know, the English boys, I think they were fairly happy to lie on him and give him plenty of hardship going down to the first, and they give him...
How do you mean?
They just, there was one dad one side and one dad the other side, and they just squeezed him up there and gave him plenty of hardship and sat on him and annoyed him. He didn't jump the first 2 hurdles well. I switched him out to get a bit of light, and
that wasn't ideal either.
No.
Yeah.
He was on the back foot from there, really.
I thought, I thought he'd run better. I didn't know about kind of the home tactics against him. Such as life.
Yeah, it's not home tactics. It's a fancied horse, and anyone is going to do it. Whether you're in Ballinrobe this evening or whether you're in Wexford or whether it's Aintree, that's just life, you know, and they're perfectly entitled to do that. And look, there'll be another day of winter, and so we'll go from there.
Could he be a champion hurdle horse next year?
He could be. Unfortunately,
he's a very high flat mark.
Yeah,
forget, like.
Yeah, unfortunately, we didn't get to see how good he was in entry. He didn't get to show half his running, so he could develop into a champion horse. Yeah.
The injury that you suffered in Cheltenham that's keeping you out, how bad is it? What's?
It's just a hematoma on my kidney, so it's not major.
Just that.
Yeah, it's not massive. There's nothing broken.
Now, don't be... Hang on a second now, because we were chatting about this outside, and I was like, yeah, Andy Lee always talks about kidney punches being the most painful. So, and you were saying, yeah, the doctors did mention who gets these injuries.
Yeah, apparently, heavyweight boxers are most likely to get it, and or lads from happening in car accidents. So, it's just a bit sore, and it's a bit annoying at times. But we're not back riding out yet. But sure, hopefully
what was it like at the time?
The pain wasn't massive, but it was niggly, niggly and there. And as I say, if you think you'd be flying, and when you go to do anything you wouldn't be able to do it. I get tired first quickly. And
6 days now, though, you must be grand, like.
Yeah, I'm getting there. there.
They're made of steel, you know.
You're going to be riding out next week, you think?
Yeah, I'm hoping to start back riding out Monday and then be prepared.
Just ready for...
Yeah, be ready to go for the weekend then.
Okay, all right. JJ, you've got an interesting career path, you know, there, but for the grace of Johnny's desire to get on a horse. You did a full journalism degree.
Yeah, I'd done a degree in Griffith College. Obviously done the Leaving cert. And then...
Did you always want to be a journalist at that point, or was it like I need to do something here?
Yeah.
It's been badly stuck.
The reason to do journalism, I liked history in school and I liked English. They were my best subjects. And I always loved riding horses. That's all I ever wanted to do. And look at the lads at home. My mother and father would have always, you know, they've been...
Your dad's a trainer?
Yeah, my dad's a trainer. So, look, they were involved in horses for years, and they tell you about...
Don't do this.
Yes.
Get out of this.
Yes.
It's a terrible life. Get out of it. Like, what are you talking about? It's great.
What, journalism or racing?
Racing. So...
I'm joking.
Yeah,
not a million miles off the conversation, is it?
No, that's exactly what it was. You know, they know how tough it is, and especially riding. It's very hard to get going riding, and it's very hard to make a living out of it. So, you know, we decided then that I'd go do a journalism degree, and even when the journalism degree was finished, I didn't know what I was going to do still, you know.
That's a 1 year degree, is it?
3-year degree.
So it's a 3 year.
I was still scratching my head a bit at the end of that, and then I think I went to ride out for Aidan for the summer, and then come September time I was wondering, you know, will I, won't I, what am I going to do? And my mother said to me, here, I think you won't be happy doing anything else, just go ride horses. And that was the last time journalism crossed my mind, you know.
Yeah, no, so just to go back, it's not like you rode all your life and then gave it up for 3 years. While you were in college, you were obviously riding away. How did you manage being in college in Dublin and riding out? What happened there?
Yeah, so I think I was only in 4 days a week. I think I hadn't got any college on a Friday. So I would have ridden out for Ross O'Sullivan and John Robinson, who fellas up around Naas there. And I'd ridden a few pint of pints for John, a few winners. So I used to ride out a bit for him and Ross. And before college, I'd get up at 6 o'clock, go in and ride out and be back. College didn't start till 11 there, the odd day. So
right.
Would have done it that way, you know.
Not the typical journalist work ethic.
No, you go in for 11:30 at the class at 11, you know.
Yeah.
And you certainly wouldn't have been riding
in
out
college, it's like, well, you know, maybe I'll go in today. Maybe I won't.
What was Griffith like?
Yeah, sure, it was good college, good lecturers there. And
you living in town?
Yeah, I lived in Cork Street.
Making weight during the season as an amateur jockey and also being a student.
Yeah, well, I was lucky as an amateur. I suppose you don't have to.
See horses around Cork Street as well.
Yeah, you do.
Wouldn't be thoroughbreds.
No, there'd be a few heavy pieballs and stuff, alright, but.
Yeah, actually that's my neck of the woods now. So yeah, you never knew you were in the neighbourhood. No. We could have had coffees and discussed our respective careers.
Yeah, yes.
Well, it might stand to you in time though. You know, to have a journalism degree, for the amount of jockeys and trainers who go into, like Fran Berry, obviously we had him on the show. Turns out he was never going. Yeah, before he retired, we didn't know, but like Fran is going to go into the media, and to have a journalism degree is definitely gives you another rung up the ladder, I would have thought.
Yeah, sure. Hopefully there's plenty of years left in me riding before I have to come to that bridge, across that bridge. But yes, it's an option definitely. Anyway.
I was saying you should keep a diary. It's like the type of thing that, like, we don't get that many self-authored books from sports people ever. Really, there's a few that you that stand out. Paul Galvin did one, Paul Kimmage did one. There's not very many other that you
Neil Horgan did one at Cork City. Now, what was funny about his was nobody knew he was doing it at the time, and he was studying in Blackhall to be a solicitor, but he I don't think he did a journalism degree, but it just turned out that the season that he did it was the season that the club basically went bust, and it was the most ridiculous off-field stuff ever. And it's actually a very, very likeable book. He brought out 2 books in Cork City, so definitely I would say, as Jervis, in the next couple of years, you never know what might happen as well. And then you have a book that's really authentic, like.
Yeah.
You know?
And there's a hunger for sports books that are actually telling the truth about what it's like, because when jockeys come in and they talk to us about making weight, or about how difficult it is to get a ride and how long it can be before you have a win, and that kind of slump, that's the type of stuff that resonates with anybody in any walk of life, because everybody goes through these slumps. But then you also have the opportunity, through your own talent sometimes, to coax a horse over a fence that it doesn't want to get over. And I don't know, I think people are definitely interested in those stories.
And as well, like the the harsh stories are the ones that people kind of warm to. I think I've always said if I wanted to write a journalism book, I'd write about a journeyman rather than a champion, because I think it's an interesting story. But you'll have the highs and the lows, and it's also it's better to do it day by day, because you're not basing it on recollection that's faded.
Yeah.
Do you know? So if you know,
he's like, shut up.
We've given you the idea. We can't do any more.
Take 15%. We can do that.
Yeah.
How's it going? How do you feel it's going at the moment? Like, notwithstanding the injury and the difficulty, because you know you've had some big wins, and you must have expectations that you have big wins. And sometimes careers happen, and you start having big wins, and you're like, oh, this is how it's going to be. But actually, the stuff that drove you to get to that point, you have to tend to that.
Yeah. So so I suppose the plan for me all along, I never really planned to turn professional, I suppose, and it kind of was a little bit unrealistic, and I thought it would be very hard to get going. So like I rode as an amateur for 7 seasons or 7 or 8 years, and obviously a lot from my dad. He backed me as a point rider, and then I went over to Nigel Twiston-Davies for a year and came back.
What age are you then?
I was about 21 or 22 just before I turned professional that year.
Is that like, it's just about the right age? Because if you go any younger, the homesickness can be a killer. Whereas at least at that stage, you're like, I understand this is homesickness, I can deal with it.
Yeah. Yeah, so I used to come back quite a bit to ride Pine Points, so I was never really away as such. But that was a very good year. It probably the making of me, really. You know, got loads of schooling over there with good riders. And
were you looking after yourself, or were you?
Yeah. I was living on the yard there, so it was good hard work. You know, you got in there and you worked hard. You mucked out your 6 boxes before first lot, and it certainly done me no harm.
Sink or swim, basically.
Yeah. And in fairness to Nigel, you know, you go in there and look, you don't ask for anything, and I didn't expect to get anything, but I was prepared to work hard and maybe get a few rides. And in fairness to him, I rode 2 or 3 winners for him, so it was very much worth it. So
that's an interesting dynamic, because obviously it's a very famous yard. You know, casual racing fans in England will all know the Twiston-Davies name. Why are you doing it?
To try and make your name, like, you know, that's it. To try and, as I said, I was riding Pine Points, and I was getting, you know, maybe 10 winners a season at the best, and mostly from my father. And look, at you're always couldn't really break into the Pine Point, couldn't really get a run at it. And it was kind of getting to the stage where do you throw your boots in the corner and leave them there, or do you go try and make a break for yourself? And I thought by going over there that I'd, you know, open up new opportunities. And I suppose the aim was try and maybe get rides at the Cheltenham Festival. And I was lucky that Nigel gave me 2 that year.
Right. So is that advertised? Is there, like, you know, is the job classified? Nigel Twiston-Davies has an opening for somebody who wants to come and make it?
No.
Knapsack over shoulder?
No, the way I looked at it was I would have obviously followed the English racing quite closely. I would have noticed that Nigel was quite good to amateur jockeys and would give young lads a chance. So Darren O'Dwyer, who works in Ballydoyle at the time, knew Nigel's head lad, and he recommended that I go there, and he got in contact with him, so we went from there.
What are they like, actually? Because they definitely come across as kind of colourful characters. Sam Twiston-Davies, Willie Twiston-Davies, Nigel Twiston-Davies, and they seem to have a bit of crack about them anyway.
Excuse me.
Have some water there for
sorry.
once.
You're another lad struggling.
Yeah.
There is actually a cold going around. It's like but in fairness, any time I see
on his kidney here, not the cold. This is a man who's injury plus the man flu, Johnny.
Yeah. This is a proper injury, but I'd say they're good crack to be around as well.
Oh, they're great people. Look, they're exactly as you see them, really.
Yeah.
There's nothing hidden with Nigel or Sam, or
fair to work for and all that.
Very straight, and you know, they're hard men, and they do their job well, and they're good people, and they've got Jim All there as well. So very good horsemen, and they're straight down the line. There's no messing with them, boys.
Yeah.
Just to remind you now that Friday Night Racing is brought to you by GoRacing.ie. We'll get to Johnny's bet in a little while, but I just want to tell you about the roadshow that we have coming up. We're going to preview the Punchestown Festival from the Alex Hotel on Wednesday, the 24th of April. You can be there. It is an exclusive off-air event from the Alex Hotel, so the only way to enjoy it is to be there on the night. An all-star lineup from the world of racing and beyond. Jockeys Ruby Walsh and Robbie Power will be there as we preview the grand finale of the jump season. The Punchestown Festival, 39 races, 12 Grade 1s and €3 million in prize money. You can get the details on offtheball.com/events. We're going to play you this little short report. It is from DCU final year student Clara Castle. We've been working with the DCU students, giving them an opportunity to build their portfolio and put some stuff together. This one is really interesting. It's about the horse trainer Paul Stafford, about his life as a small-time trainer and how he survives in the world of Elliott and Mullins. Have a look.
Paul Stafford is a horse trainer in North County Dublin who has recently been having some luck in the racing game. So how does a smaller trainer get set up? Did it take long to get it all up and running?
I did, yeah. I mean, I didn't put in a track. I have a track outside there. It's a just 2 furlongs round, and it took a couple of years to get the money together to put that in. But up until that, I was just dependent on neighbours, good neighbours, to let me in to use their fields and stubbles and things like that, and going back and forward to gallops, and it was hard work, but like, it had to be done. You need a lot of luck, and you need owners that are prepared to buy horses, and as they are now, they've got so expensive you have to be spending a lot of money.
Is it hard for small-time trainers to survive in the era of Willie Mullins and Gordon Elliott?
It is. It's because of the resources that they have, top-class horses, top-class owners. We have to compete with that, and the higher level horses, you have to be very, very lucky to have a very good horse. Like, you're buying them a 3-year-old, getting them going, breaking them, and hopefully that they progress on to being good horses, that they're good enough to win races, but they are going into that competition that is just so high, and it's very hard to compete with.
Fenlands Hill is Paul's top horse at the moment. He's placed in 5 out of his last 9 races. So what's next for him this year?
Probably more or less the same. A similar programme. It depends too on, like, obviously when horses win again, the handicapper will reassess them, and depending on what he beats in the race, I mean, I'm only hoping that he is good enough to win again, but once the handicapper decides if he's going to give him £4 or £5 or £6, wherever it might be, well, then you sort of move into a different grade again. So it'll just depend on how he progresses, really. He'd probably be up to 2.5 mile, I would say. I don't think he probably gets much further than that. You know, we've tried him over several different distances, but it's the 2.5 mile seems to be his ideal, you know.
Stafford there, that report from Clara Castle. JJ Slevin's our special guest this week. Sorry, we were at the Nigel Twiston-Davis era of your career so far. You obviously come back to Ireland pretty soon after that.
Yeah, the season ends over there, I suppose, in April at the Whitbread meeting, and then I came back after that. So sorry, I came back then and went straight to Joseph. So went from there, really.
Yeah, and the decision to turn pro had been made at that stage, really.
No, it didn't really. I rode as an amateur for the summer.
Right.
And I rode 5 winners, going okay in bumpers and hurdles and stuff, and was just tipping away from there, really. And then, I suppose at the end of the summer, it was whether do I face into another season point of pointing or not, and the answer was probably no, because I had nothing to look forward to. And I then decided, to sign the papers and go and see what happened from there. And I suppose as an amateur, you can ride 25 winners as a professional and then turn back as an amateur.
Okay, so there was a bit of a fallback you needed to, yeah. And obviously you don't need the lifeline, you don't need to go back.
No, luckily enough I didn't need it after, no.
Why not?
I was lucky, look at I got.
Ah, come on, there's been too much luck involved here.
Joss was a big help to you. It's kind of just that he, like, for a year to your first cousin to be that progressive as well.
Yeah, I was very fortunate. I got a good agent in Ken Whelan. I had a £7 claim. I had about 1,000 rides before I turned professional. A £7 claim, and I got a good agent in Ken Whelan. And I had Joseph, and
the timing was really good. You worked it like. You could have gone earlier, it might have been too soon. You could have dithered another year and it might have been, that opportunity might have been gone. Somebody else might have.
Yeah, well, as Johnny says, I was looking to get in with Joseph and he was expanding at the time, and I said to Joseph, you know, I'm thinking about turning, what do you think? He said, go do it. He said, I'm not promising you anything, but I'll try and help you, which is fair enough. And he gave me, I wanted to get a winner or two for someone like Joseph. You know, with the £7 claim, other people have noticed you. It's easier to get for Ken to sell you. It just went from there, really.
Yeah, yeah. So 3 years of pressure.
Yeah.
Is that right? Last year was a sensational year. 30 odd winners.
Yeah, I think I had 32 winners in Ireland and 4 in England. So I was lucky, very lucky, and you know, again, a lot of help from Joseph, and so I was just lucky I stayed in one piece last year. You know.
Yeah, that's kind of the important thing that. The rest of us, that's the other side about being a journalist. You were kind of saying, you know, you were looking around the office here and there's so many people on a Friday afternoon that you're pretty happy with the decision you made. You get to go and ride horses. We don't really suffer the bruises to the hematoma. It's just bruises to our ego.
Yeah, we get a lot of that. What are your, what can you improve on as a jockey?
As a jockey, one is you never stop. Well, I feel you never stop improving. Like you always work to get better every day. Like you watch every replay, every race. And tactically, you need to improve tactically the whole time. Be sharper, watch what's going on around you, try not to make the wrong decisions. Sorry, like, or even riding over jumps. I mean, that aspect of it will never stop improving. How you present the horse at a fence, and how you get to know each horse and learn. Like you learn so much from riding one horse after one race to the next day. You learn so much. And it's just like everything, your fitness, your strength, your weight, there's so much to it and you need to keep working every day.
Yeah.
You know?
Do the horses surprise you during races? See, like I was thinking earlier on when we were talking about it, like you get on a horse and you ride to the start line. At the start line, do you have an idea what form and temperament the horse is in the race?
Yeah, you do. You get a nice feel from what kind of mover they are, what their wind is often like, or what way they carry their heads, and if they're going to be free or not. And they do, you do learn a good bit about them going down, but some horses can be quite lazy. They will find a lot more
in the race.
Than you expect, or often those free-going lads will travel really strongly, and you're saying, how far do I win the whole way, and they could just fall in the hole. So some of them do surprise you. And I suppose horses, once you ride a horse a few times, they can improve massively as they go along from race to race, and horse can improve when he goes jumping fences or whatever,
Yeah, okay. All right, let's move on. The Total Irish Injured Jockeys Charity Fund improved to €3,439.44 after Johnny finally landed a winner thanks to the name's jock scoring at Cork. It says finally. I'm just reading the script here, Johnny, that's all.
Who wrote the script?
Not me, but...
Can you find out?
There are 2 Group 3 races on the Saturday card at Naas, while the Sunday racing comes from Dundalk and Tramore this week. Gold Cup hero Alboom Photo is parading at the County Water track as well. Johnny, who have you gone for this week?
I've given my nap I think I've actually given the same horse as I gave. Let me just confirm this now, because there were a couple of options for me this weekend.
150 at Naas?
No, I've gone for a pretty bland one here. I'm basically just relaying what Aidan said to us last Friday. He said we'll have an American Pharaoh running. That's it. And that horse is called Monarch of Egypt.
Are we sure? There's not 2 American Pharaohs on it?
No, Glen Eagles actually, who we mentioned favourably, he's his first runner and his first winner today in Newbury. I think it was in the first race. This is American Pharaoh's first runner in these parts anyway. And this horse would be basically expected to win because I think they want them to strike early. I don't know if Aidan's had a 2-year-old winner yet off the top of my head, but this horse is out of Up, who was a good Galileo mare and basically ticks a lot of the boxes. And it's a fascinating card at Naas because we have also the Guineas, the Gladden Stakes rather, at 4 o'clock, in which Romanised, one of the stories of last season. He makes his comeback for Ken Condon, taking on the likes of No Needs Never. What would you know about him actually?
Yeah, he's a grand horse, and he's never used to looking up to ride him out a good bit last year. A lot of speed. No one likes to be dropped in and come.
You like riding those 5 furlong horses?
Yeah, something different. It's like
getting into a Ferrari or whatever.
So they're so quick, but he's a decent horse, yeah.
And then the alleged stakes these are also races that would be at the Curragh. Otherwise, I've spoken to some people, by the way, who the Curragh returns next month, and some of the jockeys just really excited about the state of the Curragh, and I think it will. The bits I've seen of it is going to bring your experience at the races to another level, and I think in Ireland a lot of our racetracks have been slow to kind of modernise. Ballinrobe tonight will be an example of a track always constantly improving, but the Curragh is going to, I think, bring it to the next level. It's going to be exciting when it returns, but as for now, this race is at Naas, a track that's made a lot of improvements, and we Flag of Honour, Latrobe, Success Days, Magical Hazardport. It's a hell of a race, and obviously Joseph's big horse coming back into action as well.
Yeah, sure. Latrobe he's a fine big horse, and he's back there this year. So I think he'll be right the road for his first run. That looks a pretty strong race, but it could be a real nice mid-distance horse.
Just thinking of a Camelot 4-year-old trained by Joseph. How much did the Sir Eric death kind of affect the yard?
Yeah, sure. Obviously, massively. In fact, he was a colt, and he could have been a very good stallion. But sure, look at that race, and that's the way it goes. And it was a pity to lose him,
That's 4:30.
Yeah,
at Naas. Are you saying Latrobe is just keep an eye, watch this, enjoy it?
Well, that race is very tough because you're with the likes of Flag of Honour in the race, who's probably a better horse again than him. If I remember correctly, they clashed actually in the Irish Ledger last year, and Flag of Honour outstayed him. But you're taking a question mark in terms of their readiness. They'll have bigger plans ahead. Magical is a seriously good filly as well. She's rated 122. Probably would be favourite, I'd say. Even the likes of Stellar Mass isn't a bad horse in his days. Success Days can be very good on soft ground. This is a cracking race, but in terms of
one of the things we were going to do was explain where these horses all end up later on.
Yeah.
So can we go back to the first race then? So you tipped Monarch of Egypt, right?
Well, that race. I'm not sure if it's going to end up in terms of being a proper classic trial. It's obviously a 5 furlong maiden, so where these horses will end up, you never know. I mean,
these are sprinters.
No, well, not necessarily, because in fact most of them probably won't be. Like American Pharaoh isn't really bred to be a sprinter. He's out of a Galileo mare by American Pharaoh. You'd imagine he could well be a Guineas horse next year. I don't know if you've heard any whispers about him, or but they have to start. The 2-year-old maids this time of year are obviously over the minimum trip or thereabouts, and
is that just to get them on the racetrack?
Yeah, and it's an early season, so you have sharper types. There will be 6 furlong maidens as well, but No Nay Never, Michael O'Callaghan's horse, very well bred as well. These horses could end up being, they could end up running, if they're particularly good, they could end up running in the National Stakes, the Dewhurst down the line this season. Whereas obviously the horse we mentioned there, they could all be Irish Ledger horses back at the Curragh in September on Champions Weekend, obviously particularly Latrobe and Flag of Honour, who ran the race last year.
Okay, and so the Ledger's over what distance?
1 mile and 6.
Okay.
Yeah, and the Irish Ledger's an anomaly because it's open to horses older than 3, which kind of doesn't make it a classic in ways, but it makes a better race for my mind.
Okay, there's a couple of other races this weekend we wanted to talk about. There's one.
Yeah, obviously in Ayr, don't know how your form lines are here, JJ, but we've the Scottish champion hurdle, and I probably need brain surgery, but I'm actually going for brain power in this race. On his best form, he'll probably win this, but he's very, very hard to predict. He's definitely had physical issues, possibly some issues in terms of temperament as well. He didn't do it at Cheltenham, but his performance prior to that at Cheltenham, he looked very, very good, and he's 11.9, running off 153 on a going day. He's a big chance. That's in the Scottish Champion hurdle at 2.25. Then in the Scottish National, what's interesting here is, I don't know if you remember this, but Vintage Clouds, I don't know if you saw him falling at the first before you went yourself in the National.
Yeah, he didn't get much of a run, so he'd be coming there fresh, and he was well fancy for the National, so he'd have a big chance.
He was 10-1. I want to ask you, actually, just incidentally, my tip in this race is a much bigger price. He was 4th in the race last year. Neil Mulholland trains him, and he's doing fine. He's coming back after a wind-up. The National Fences, there was a photo of Jessie's mare who finished 2nd. She basically looked like she was down. Do you remember, I don't know if you used to watch Quantum Leap, where the hologram could kind of just, he wasn't actually of any mass, so he could just go through the car and the
grew up in 2-channel lamps.
Yeah, I loved Quantum Leap, but Magic of Light going through the fence looked a bit like that to me. What are the fences actually like, or was that just a kind of a fake photo?
Yeah, well, The middle of the fences nowadays are actually easy fix. They're like those easy fix fences that they school on the Curragh. So that's what's in the middle section, where once they were wooden stakes, and much more give in them, and then they're just packed up with the spruce around them, and then they have your toe board and your middle board, and it makes them much more safe for horses. Where like, obviously when a horse used to get in too tight or do what Magical Light done, they could just flip like so.
So say if my laptop, right, so say that's the fence, how low can you get away with jumping it on a particular fence?
Unfortunately, general principle tried to get away with going pretty low, but
that was very low now.
Yeah, but
wrong side of the camera there. Go on, yeah. So
they're just about, you know, nearly just under halfway
so
up.
The easy fix is just there.
Yeah.
So you're talking about not even halfway, or?
Yeah, well, just halfway, or a shade higher than halfway.
And then the rest is
just
kind of
spruce. Yeah.
So that gives an example of the jumping test that it isn't really, and that's, I think Tiger Roll loves it because it's not a million miles away from the cross-country race, some of the flights, and he wouldn't have a hope of winning the National 20 years ago. Like, and I'm not saying it's a good or a bad thing, but the jumping test isn't really what it looks. If that's, because I just wanted the jockey's opinion on that, because I was astonished by Magical Light's photo. She's literally halfway through the fence, but she got through it.
Yeah. So I think the biggest challenge is they're visually very big for a horse. And they do like physically take massive jumping, but they can just get away with a lot more than they used to. You know?
Yeah. And laptop could be a better nick as well.
Mentally, yeah, it was just his appeal for a free laptop there.
Yeah.
It's a mental thing for the horses there, and that's why, you know, you've got to help them. Yeah. That's why the stride pattern is unbelievably important.
Yeah. The stride pattern is important for whether it's a hurdle race or a chase or no matter what type of race, but for those type of races, yeah, they're visually very big for a horse, and they will often, some horses don't take to it, they just get a fright. But yeah, so it's still a very big test for a horse.
Is it bigger than the Irish National?
Well, yeah, it is. Yes, it is. But they're a different test, completely different. The Irish National, they're a good, big, solid fence. They do take jumping, where, as I say, in Aintree, it is unique. Like, and those big ditches, like the Third is quite a big fence, and you have Valentine's, and the Beechers are still obviously quite big, and they're still big fences, you know. It
must be a massive advantage to get a prep over the fences, so that you know what your horse can, you know how your horse to take to it or not.
Oh it is. Like, you know by the time you get to Beechers the first time how you're going, or how your horse is, what's he thinking, and yeah, so if they do take to it, it is a massive advantage to have a run around there.
Did you want to talk about the 240 at Newbury as well?
Yeah, it's obviously Classic Day at Newbury, and this was the race in which Too Darn Hot was supposed to make his appearance. He's had a minor setback. He's favoured for both Classics, the Guineas and the Derby. I'm not sure he'll say the Derby trip, even though he's kind of bred to get it, but this race is interesting without being amazing. I don't think there's any Irish runner in it. I'm going to go with Muhathir. He was an impressive winner of the course and trip in his final race at 2. He definitely enjoyed the ground. Listening to connections, he's quite an early horse for this time of year, and just the showcasing element of him, soft ground, which I think they're forecasting will suit. It'll also suit Hello Youmzain, who was very impressive when he last ran in France. I'm not going to say I have a strong opinion on the race. They're pretty likely race 3-year-olds. Watron is very interesting as well, but Muhathir would be interesting. I'm not sure anything's going to run away with it, and I think the hot favourite for the race obviously doesn't run.
Okay. JJ, I know you said earlier on there's obviously plenty of time before you look at what's coming next for you, but you come from a racing family, and there was training obviously in the gene pool there. Is that something that you're interested in into the future? Are you obsessed with all the races that Johnny's talking about, kind of to the point where you're thinking, you know, I understand the form of all these horses in case I ever come up against them. I'm checking to see the technique of the jockeys, if there's anything I can nick from that.
Yeah, I really like the idea of training horses, and I love, you know, obviously working with them, and, you know, maybe picking a race, or, you know, trying to work out their handicap mark, whether they have it in hand and stuff like that, is very, very interesting to me. But I think I'd be very unwilling to train horses, because it's a tough game, you know. Like realistically, if I was to start training horses in the morning, I don't really have any backing as such, and you need support. And here, look at lots of people that have started haven't had any backing, but I think it's a very, very hard game to get into. I think maybe in the future I'd like to break horses. My father would have broken a lot of horses over the years, and maybe pre-train a few, and I really enjoy schooling horses, you know. It's getting young horses jumping, and And maybe I'd like to have a few pointers and maybe a few cross country horses. I really like the cross country races. I love riding in those, and the dream maybe would be to train a winner of a Latouche or something someday,
Right, okay, so so
basically, I'm not going to go training, but now you are going to go training.
Well, yeah.
Everything but.
He says, start the sentence like, no way am I going training, then by the end he's trained the winner of the Latouche. Maybe train on a small scale is the answer you're looking for.
What's your off-season like now?
We don't really have much of an off-season. We're coming into the summer. The summer's good and busy. I like the summer because you have a chance to get in on winners. Maybe some of the top lads might take a few weeks off and take it handy, and there's loads of small handicaps that gives lads like me a chance to ride a few winners.
Okay, so do you have a holiday? Do you have a week off? Do you have 2 weeks off?
Yeah, we have. It's coming up there in just around Derby time, around the Derby sale time, around Irish Derby time. So I think I'm going to France for a few days. So it's the first time I've been away, so we're going there for a few days.
Well, I hope the kidney heals up, JJ. You've been great.
And that cough.
Yeah.
Hopefully. Yeah.
Thanks a million for coming in tonight.
Thanks, Les.
And Johnny, congratulations on a winner last week.
Thanks, sure.
We're back.
Yeah. Looking forward to anything particular over the weekend yourself?
I'm on holidays.
Nearly on holidays.
9 o'clock tonight.
I knew there was an extra kind of pep in your step today, but great weekend's racing, particularly at Naas. And you'll obviously, the Irish racetracks, they do look after the other meetings in Britain, so you're able to keep an eye on what's happening in Ayr and in Newbury. But cracking racing tomorrow at Naas if you're at nothing. And
if you're heading along, check out goracing.ie in advance of that, because you'll get all the information you need about cards and how to plan your entire day's racing. And Friday Night Racing, of course, brought to you by goracing.ie. It is in the books for this week. We'll see you next week for Friday Night Racing at 3 o'clock across all of our social channels. And if you're listening to the radio, stay tuned. We have a little bit more business to sort out before the end of the show tonight.
Friday Night Racing
on Off the Ball.
And they're off. Brought to you by Go Racing. Plan your day at the races at goracing.ie.